Good afternoon. It's noon on Wednesday, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Was asked by Adrian, or actually, I asked Adrian, but Amy Greenfield Falk recommended that I do an AMA. And I said, sure, what's an AMA? And so now I know, ask me anything. And there's things in my life that I kind of just go by my gut. But one of the things that I've worked hard to learn and do is understand kids' behaviors and why they struggle and help look from a new perspective. So I'm going to just kind of wait another minute before I really go into my introduction. But I'm hoping that we have some people who are willing to throw out some questions like, why does my child have a tantrum at the drop of a hat? Or why is it such a battle to sit down to do homework? And I want to be able to give you a new perspective, more of a neurodevelopmental perspective of why that might be happening, and that to let you know that there are definitely things that help. There are definitely things that help. So let's see. I'm going to start. My name is Pam Formosa, and I own BrainFit Academy. And BrainFit Academy is a company who works with children and families who are struggling. And when I mean struggling, I'm talking about struggling with attention, struggling with anxiety, learning challenges, sleep problems, emotional behavioral concerns. And what we do at BrainFit Academy is we use a neurodevelopmental approach to really looking at where is the root cause of some of this behavior coming from, or some of these challenges coming from. And so my background is occupational therapy. So I've always worked with children and families, and in my OT career, I certainly learned about sensory integration and bilateral coordination and balance and a lot of different sensory motor skills. But my real true work really didn't start until the year 2000 when I took a Brain Gym 101 course. And it was a 3-day class, and at the time, I was working in a school, and I was kind of pushed by the eighth grade English teacher saying, you really should do Brain Gym. I think you would love it. And I'm like, I don't know what Brain Gym is, but okay. So I got the school to pay for it, and I went and took a 3-day hands on Brain Gym course, thinking it was going to be another conference. I was going to pick out a few tidbits and then use them in the classroom or so forth. Well, so much more happened. In the first day, I was learning so many cool, easy activities to use. And I was like, oh, I could definitely use this in my classes and my treatment sessions. The second day, I was very quiet because I physically and emotionally felt different, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And by the third day of this class, I had actually, me, at age 35 at that point, moved through some social emotional struggles that I had had my entire life. And I didn't have to talk about it. That was the key. I really was like, really? I can feel better and not have to talk about it? Whatever this is, I need more of it. And so, to make a long story short, hi, Adrian. Um, I went and I took all the licensure work the next year. I went part time in my job and took the licensure work to become certified and licensed in Brain Gym. And what I found was that Brain Gym allowed me to address more areas of concern on a deeper level than I ever was able to as an occupational therapist. And so that was the year 2001 when I got licensed, and I have not stopped using Brain Gym since. And I've also brought in a whole bunch of other neurodevelopmental tools to work with kids and families. And it's just so much joy and pride in this work. So today's topic is, why does my child do the things that they do, right? And it's sometimes it's like aggravating, and it's very much like playing a whack-a-mole, as you can imagine. Um, do you ever feel like that, that you're playing whack-a-mole where your child may have tantrums at a meltdown, and so you make sure that they're sleeping better and they're eating better and the tantrums go away, but now they get stomach aches, and you're like, why are you getting stomach aches? And then you go to the doctor, and they say nothing's wrong. Hi, Lynn. um, but then the stomach aches sort of go away, and then they say their legs hurt, or they start acting out, or they can't sleep anymore. And it's like whack-a-mole. You push down one, and another one pops up. Well, when that's happening, we are thinking that oftentimes it's because there's a root cause. There's a root cause to all of these different types of behaviors, and many times it's a neurodevelopmental root cause. So, we want to help people understand on a very simplistic level, because you don't need to be complicated about this, what we're talking about in terms of neurodevelopment. And so, I have my model of my brain. This is a model that we use all the time with kids as young as 5, all the way up through adults. And it's based on what we call the triune brain theory. And if you think about this brain, we mostly think about this thinking brain, the blue part. This is where we're obviously using a lot of cognitive functioning for planning, organizing, doing our academic work, those kind of things. And there's an assumption in our society that the other two parts of the brain are fully developed and functioning and supporting that thinking brain. And the reality is nope, that's not true. So let me explain what that is about. If you look down at the red part, um, it's called the brain stem. We actually call it the baby brain when we teach younger kids, but because this is the part of the brain that was developing in utero and the first year of life, tons of growth and development going on down here. And what that is this is where the sensory information comes into the brain. So you're getting senses from your eyes and ears, but also your muscles and your joints and your balance system called the vestibular system, and it weaves together like a beautiful tapestry so that it can come up to your higher level emotional brain. The green part we call the emotional brain. And the emotional brain is really about what is this information coming into the brain? Is it safe? Is it familiar? Is it interesting? And if it is, neurotransmitters and hormones are thrown out into the system so that we can reach our higher level thinking brain and respond to the information. However, so many times this lower part of the brain, the baby brain, is not as well developed and organized as we would hope. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We might talk about that. But what happens is the information that comes into the brain comes in either too fast, too slow, disjointed, and it causes confusion to the emotional brain. And the emotional brain goes, threat to my survival. And it might not be a threat to their survival. It's all the perception. And the emotional brain makes a very quick decision. And if it is a threat to your survival, a loud noise or too much going on or a scratchy tag on the back of the neck, then the emotional brain sends out adrenaline and cortisol. And then instead of coming up to the higher level thinking brain where we can respond to the information, we go down into the baby brain and we react reflexively. We react reflexively to the information. And that's not always so pretty. That reaction is something we all have. It's called the fight, flight, freeze response. And the fight, flight, freeze response is there to keep us safe. Thank God we have it. But the problem is that when a child or family are put into more of a fight flight state of mind too many times or for too long, it causes trauma into the system. And it really helps, it not really helps, it really forces people to start living down in that lower part of the brain. And it's not fun, it's lots of energy, there's no joy. The thing about living down there is we can't access our smarts. It's not that we're not smart. This has nothing to do with how smart you are. It's at the moment I can't access my thinking brain. And an example of this that I'll give you, and this is one of the things that life changing when I got into this work, is as a child and an adult, when I got stressed, at even a little bit stressed, I was not able to access my language. I literally would go blank. And my if my husband and I were having an argument and I started to get stressed, he would be saying blah 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 blah, and I would be looking at him with deer in the headlights, and he's like, "Aren't you going to say anything?" And I was like, ugh. And it's not that I didn't have anything to say, I couldn't get it organized in my brain and get the language out. Some of you are familiar with right brain, left brain, and there's a lot of theory around this. But for general sake, the left side of the brain is really where the language is organized and developed. And I'm a very right brain person. I'm a big picture, hands-on kind of person, and language has always been a struggle. I wasn't a good reader all the way through, and so that was part of my life. And what happened was I started to compensate for this disorganization. So think about kids compensating. I mean, we all compensate, but for me, it was I avoided social interaction and I avoided stress as much as I could. So I quit anything that got hard. Just anything. I was like, oh, piano lessons, oh, no, too hard. Oh, Girl Scouts, no, too much touchy feely girly stuff. I quit. And so when I learned about brain gym is that it wasn't that I was stupid or there's something wrong with me. It was the fight flight response that was helping creating me to get stuck down in that lower part of the brain, not being able to access my language in order to communicate. And I think for so many of our kiddos now, they're like me. I get them. They don't express themselves really well. You ask them a question, how are you feeling? Fine. What'd you do today? Nothing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Some of it is a learned behavior, but it started with it takes too much effort to find my words and be able to communicate like that. So they communicate in other ways and you know, not always the best way. So I'm not seeing any questions come in, but they generally come in kind of categories. So what I thought I would do is I would say 4 questions that all actually relate to what I've just talked about. Um, let's see. Why does my child cover their ears with loud noises? Ever see that? You know. Why does my child have a tantrum at the drop of a hat? Why can't my child um, Why does my child have trouble sleeping? Why does my child struggle and to focus on homework? Believe it or not, those 4 types of questions may have one root cause. And that's the exciting part. We at BrainFit, we're just always doing detective work, trying to figure out, where is the underlying root cause. Hello, Jennifer. Thanks for joining me. And so those questions, loud noises, tantruming, having trouble focusing, having trouble sleeping. Well, many of our kiddos, this baby brain, I'm sorry, mirror image here, is underdeveloped and disorganized. And one of the underdevelopments that we talk about and um, is the primitive reflexes. Primitive reflexes are movement patterns, movements that babies do in utero in the first year of life that are setting up the nervous system. And there's one called the Moro reflex. And a lot of you, I'm sure, have seen this when a baby startles or a loud noise and they kind of go, and then they come back and calm, or they might cry. That pullback and taking a breath in and then crying or exhaling and then coming back, that motor pattern called the Moro reflex is the primitive fight flight response. Okay. And it's there to protect us because babies have no other way to protect themselves, right? So they and it's sensory based. So it could be a loud noise that created that pullback. It could be a touch. It could be visual, too much coming on. It could be social interaction because that is very intimidating for some, right? That's, visual, auditory, and, everything comes together. And so they might pull back. If this reflex didn't finish and become more of a startle, what happens is when a startle is we startle, but then we still have access a second later to go, oh, that was only, the 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 truck backing up, that loud noise, or oh, you know what, I'm nervous, but I'm going to be okay. But that's a startle. The Moro is primitive and it doesn't give us access to our higher level thinking. We get stuck down in that brainstem level. And so if that root cause is really where these behaviors are stemming from, instead of talking about the behaviors and doing behavioral modification, although accommodating is really helpful to get through your day, yes, it is. But our mission is to go into that brainstem level through movement and other energy, tapping, those kind of activities that help calm the emotional brain and reorganize and develop strength in the brainstem. So it's not necessarily a emergency strategy that we're teaching, although sometimes they do help. It's more of a, I want these tantrums to just stop, or really reduce in frequency, or reduce in how often they happen. So I do see a question. Why does my child have a breakdown before each Zoom class? Well, I'm not sure how old your child is, but I had breakdowns before I had to learn how to do Zoom. It's new. Blech. It's different. It's not, if you're a hands-on person like I am, there's a different connection here. You're also being able to see yourself on the screen, and some people are embarrassed to see themselves on the screen. It's almost like getting their picture taken, right? So all of that is too much information and it's causing the emotional brain to react. So we're, instead of being able to come up to our higher level thinking brain and get through it and actually learn on the Zoom call, we are going into a fight, flight, freeze. So a breakdown, it could come in different forms. It could be fight. I hate this. This is stupid. Stomping up the stairs, throwing objects. That's the fight. Then there's the freeze where oh, Anna, your child's 6. Okay, yeah, definitely. Zoom is way developmentally way above what a 6-year-old is supposed to be doing. Um, but there definitely could be the Moro fight flight going on. So it could be fight, could be freeze, where they just deer in the headlights refuse to do it, and they literally cross their feet and done. Or they're flighting, and this is the kid who is like, oh, well, let me go get a drink of water first. Oh, can we do this instead? Oh, and they're trying to navigate around the situation, and you want to pull your hair out. And so what we want to do is, instead of coming in and say, no, you need to go on the Zoom call, it's, I notice Zoom calls don't make you feel good, or you don't like these Zoom calls. And do you understand? Do you have any idea why? No? Well, I have an idea. Maybe we can help your emotional brain or your body feel better before we go on a Zoom call. Are you interested in, trying some strategies? And one of the strategies could simply be something called hookups. And it's from the Brain Gym program. And this has come in very handy in my life and many others probably. Um, what you do is you cross your feet. And you can do this laying down, you can do it sitting. And you're going to cross your feet and you're going to take your hands like this and clasp those hands and bring them up to your chest. Okay. And then your tongue rests on the roof of your mouth where you'd click. And you can click. Young kids like to click. It's great for their tongue. It activates a lot of sensory things in the mouth. But it's really just resting your tongue up there, relaxing. And you might do this for 30 seconds, a minute, but it helps calm the nervous system. And where that comes from, we talked about the Moro being pulled back and then the second part coming in. It's the second part. It's inviting the body to come back to calm. Okay, so doing that before a Zoom call may help. Um, I'm just looking at some questions here. Let me just read this here. How are children going to effectively learn when they return to the school during the pandemic? My child is scared to return to school and will only be doing distant learning. Can't imagine how physical distant talking will impact learning, especially for kids who are scared. You are 100% right. There is everyone, everyone is in fight flight right now, and we're scrambling. And one of the reasons why we all are in fight flight is because one of our basic universal emotional needs is not being met. And one of those needs is called certainty. Being certain that I'm going to be safe. Okay? We're not there. We're not there as a society. And so one of the things that I do for myself is I do the brain gym movement. I keep myself out of fight flight. I come back in because the world is there, but I don't have to stay there. And I don't want to get caught up in the what ifs, we're living day to day and we're making the best decisions that we know how to make. And they're based on our values, they're based on our other needs, financial needs, and all those kind of things. And there's no wrong answer. um, Kids are going to have a different year, and there's many kids and families who are very resilient, and it's going to work out. Others, it's going to be very difficult. But this is one of the things that we are grateful for. And our brain fit team had a staff meeting the other night, and we're like, everyone needs to be doing this. It would help them so much. And I'm like, I know it would be awesome if I could, if people would take some time to settle down that emotional brain and get the movements, across the left, right, midline so I can access my language and access my thinking brain and almost set yourself up for more success. And one of the other things is I just read an article about the how our parents are feeling is going to set the tone of the household. So if you're feeling uncertain and stressed, and we're all feeling uncertain and stressed, how can we as parents do what we need to do to keep ourselves in a better place so that we can be a better gauge for our kids? Um, so one of the things, certainly this hookups for us is really great too. There's another thing that I do. It's called positive points, and it's going to look so like crazy easy, and like how could this possibly make a difference? But on our foreheads, there is something called a neurovascular points here. And by stimulating this, by pulling the skin up right here, we pull blood flow, and they have this on imaging. The blood flow is coming in up away from survival mode into your higher level thinking. So I literally, and this is what we do when we're overwhelmed, right? We go like, oh my gosh, do it with intention to be in a better positive place. So just put your hands here and you're going to lift the skin up. I just close my eyes and I breathe. I just breathe. And I might do this for 20 seconds, maybe up to a minute, maybe a little more these days. But it's not about doing this for hours. It's not a whole workout that we need to do, but it's a pause. Pause in your day. If you're noticing you're in fight flight, or your kids are driving you absolutely crazy, you stop. Do some hookups, cross those feet, cross those arms, tongue, and do some positive points. And set an intention. What is the positive intention? What would you like your day to be like? And these are the skills we're teaching kids, because I didn't really learn this until I was an adult. But man, if I had learned this as a kid, my whole school career might have been quite different than it was. So that's where the passion comes from. So let's see. Not seeing any other questions come in. So how about why can't my child sit still? Right? Well, there's something called another primitive reflex that's housed down in this brain stem level. It's called the crawling reflex. And the crawling reflex is called symmetrical tonic neck reflex. And it really is, it's the motor pattern that gets the child into crawling position as an infant. Okay. And there's a whole span of, did your child crawl? It crawled a little bit. They kind of crawled like army crawl. They dragged one foot. They crawled really fast. They crawled for a week. There's a lot of variation in what kids do in terms of their crawling, but it's such an important stage. And so if the STNR, the crawling reflex, didn't emerge and do the job it was supposed to do back then, the child never really got into that crawling position. So why is that important? Well, let's think about it. Think about the crawling position. Now rotate that position into the vertical. It's in a sitting position, right? Your hips are bent, your knees are bent, your arms tend to be out doing like writing or things at a table, eating dinner, whatever it is. If my body didn't learn to do that and experience that when I was 9 months old, I got through. I got up, I ended up walking, figured it out. No one thought anything different. And then I went to school. And now suddenly I have to be in this crawling position, seating position, and it's uncomfortable. I didn't like it then, so I figured out how to get around it. I don't like it now, so I'm going to figure out how to get around it. And honestly, if I can stand up and do homework or stand up and at the dinner table or sit on my foot or stand on one foot and be in the chair, I am better able to think. And it's because this brainstem, when I'm in that sitting position, the brainstem is feeling uncomfortable. That motor pattern isn't easy for me. So my emotional brain starts to get irritated and uncomfortable. And I'm spending all my time paying attention to how uncomfortable I am in this seat and why are they making me sit here? So I can't think. I can't sit down and do the homework. I can't sit to eat dinner. So I don't. I figure out a different way, but I don't know why. I just don't know why. I just know I don't like it. We help kids and families understand why that may be happening and how we can help you start to feel better about that. I mean, we can compensate. Absolutely. There's a lot of people who compensate. Everybody compensates. But if we have to compensate all the time, or we're not being able to fit into the mold of public school and but we need to, then we really do need to kind of look and see. Um, okay, one last question because we have about 2 minutes. Love it. What can you do if a child freezes and can't decide how to use unstructured time? Oh, goodness. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So many kids and adults that we see freeze with decision making. That is the emotional brain freeze. Okay, so we got to stimulate that emotional brain. This stimulates it, this stimulates it. Thinking caps may help. So thinking caps is an ear massage, okay? There's all these acupressure points in the ears, and it literally is rolling the ears back. And you can do this for your child. Most kids, well, either they hate it because you don't want to touch it, or they love it. They melt into it. And I stand behind kids while they're sitting at the table um, or on the couch, and we just relax. And I'll say, hey, okay, so we got some decisions to make, right? And what are some of our choices? And we're just casually, but we're stimulating the auditory system, which also stimulates the emotional system and helps to calm. And you may find that they're like, "Oh, I know what I want to do." And that anxiousness, that stress that causes the freeze. So common. So I have 30 seconds. I really appreciated having the opportunity to do this. I hope it's helpful. We do have a YouTube channel, BrainFit Academy Inc., a YouTube channel with follow along videos. Our website's brainfitacademy.com. Um, you know, Call us, chat. Love to hear from you, and I hope this helped. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.